Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, farm, or just dream of a rural life? This is a show to help you and your kids grow your own food and grow as a person. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, homeschool mama 6, and small town enthusiast. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been exposed to so much of what rural life has to offer. Join me every week to talk about homesteading, homeschooling, and growth with a homestead education. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. I am so excited today because I have Ashley Burton from Mulberry Farms on. Thank you so much for being here, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's nice because I don't get to really talk to a whole lot of people while we're on the homestead. It can be kind of a lonely life living your life of self-sufficiency, but you're right. We're here at Mulberry Branch Farms. We have 13 acres. And our journey started with a retired cornfield that was just brimming along its borders with mulberry trees. And that's just how we kind of came to be. We bought the raw land and turned it into something that is purely of self-sufficiency. And it is our staycation. We love to be on our property and we love to be better stewards for it each and every day that we're here.
Oh, I love that. I always get so excited when people say they started from like a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
We personally didn't. And honestly, I just don't think it was right for us. And I'm not even saying it that way because I get so excited. I'm like, that's it. We're selling everything and we're buying bigger land. And then I'm like, no, I like my house.
Yeah, I don't blame you. There is something it's really romantic, like to think about it, and a lot of homesteaders start their journey that way. We're like, I'm just going to buy this raw land that's undeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be one with nature and I'm going to work with it and make it what I want. But, as beautiful and honest and pure as that thought is, like, there's so much work to it and everything seems so much more clear in your dreams and your fantasy land of your homestead. And then when it comes to taking raw land and working it and making those dreams come to fruition, like, it is so intensely difficult with the work, but in the same sentence, like, it's intensely satisfying as well.
It is. And there's a lot of steps that go into it. I'm going to give myself a little plug for a second. By the time this episode comes out, you guys can download my freebie on how to buy raw land. I put my several years of real estate into this and it's killer. So I'll put that link in the show notes.
Absolutely. And I would encourage anybody that can get any type of experience or help when it comes to taking raw land to something beautiful and self-sufficient, take all of the help that you can get because
right.
no matter how much you think, like, I've read so much and I've researched, every bit of land that you set your foot on is completely different. The biodiversity, the soils are different. And I'm kind of leading into my own story there. We bought this as an old retired cornfield. And the dumb 21-year-old me that stepped foot on this property back right after I had my first daughter, we were looking for land to build our house because we were living with my husband's parents in the basement. We started,
I'd be looking for a new
story, like this is nice and we appreciate it, but we're ready to get out and do our own thing. And I thought, well, this is old retired farmland. If a farmer can grow so much food in a small area over the years, I should be able to plant anything in the soil and grow whatever I want.
Whatever's left of the soil.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That is exactly right, though, because I was young and dumb and I figured if they did it, I can do it. And I just didn't really realize like the common and modern practices of agriculture in the United States. And after years of like moving my garden, because I'm like, maybe it's the shade, maybe it's the leaves from the mulberries coming down or the walnut trees. I'm going to move it here. And I moved my garden. I don't know how many times before it finally dawned on me. I'm like, it is the soil. And I think that's something that like a lot of people will see and kind of just glean over. Like, soil health is so important. And honestly, our soil made a lot of the decisions for like the livestock that we have here, the practices that we have here. But once I realized that it was my soil that was so stripped, that's when abundance came into our life. Because once you start realizing what's wrong with it, that's how you know how to fix it. And I have that same philosophy when it comes to livestock. We're so westernized to the point where we treat the symptom and we don't look at the root. We don't look at the management practice that creates that symptom. We want the symptom to go away. And that problem reoccurs if you don't take care of the root cause. So you got to find your root cause. You have problems, you got to dig deep. And we're so used to going to Mr. Google Pants and him telling us what to do that we don't really dive,
And, like I've been in agriculture since I was a kid, and I knew how important soil health was, but I'm reading a few books right now for my next project, and I just didn't realize even like how depleted it was in like the Midwest, where I've never farmed before. I've always farmed on the West Coast where everything's just fertile all the time. I knew that we had to keep it fertile, but I didn't realize how bad it was in the Midwest.
Oh yeah, it's very bad. And it doesn't help that like the typical things that make up our soil aren't always the most nurturing for agriculture, which I thought has always been really funny, because like you can go from one part of my property and it's mostly sand and shale, and then go to another part of the property and it's all clay. So like it literally changes on our 13 acres from like the back portion of our property where we currently have like our gardens. But I will say, though, that adversity kind of pushed us to look at different types of gardening. So we did like the normal in-ground garden. And now we do a lot of hugelkultur, and we do raised beds and we do vertical gardening.
Do you want to tell everybody what hugelkultur is real quick?
Yeah. So hugelkultur, we're actually practicing in our raised bed. So while it is typically a mounding type of bed, it's being contained, but it's basically taking lots of logs, debris, putting those as your base, and then building on top of that. So we started the very bottoms with old logs, locust trees here specifically because they're hardwood and they will take a lot longer to decompose. But through the decomposition of that lumber within, it is amending the soil all the time. It's enhancing the biodiversity and the microorganisms in our soil throughout its entire life. We put in old leaves, we put in used up straw and hay from our livestock. We use goat manure, donkey manure, duck manure. We put it all in there and put a nice base of already composted manures and soils on the very top. And it kind of amends itself. I really enjoy that type of gardening too, because it really helps it to where there's never waste around the farm. I just have like this really big pet peeve when people like think that it's manure, it's useless, or this is old bedding, it's useless. There's always a second life around a homestead and a farm.
Yes.
Like the banana peel is a wonderful addition to my hugelkultur beds. It's a wonderful addition to my compost.
That is my 5-year-old's new job, is he has to cut up the banana peels in smaller pieces with kitchen scissors. So
yeah.
I'm like, if you and your brother are going to eat your weight in bananas every week, I am keeping all of that.
But see, like, that's so good though, that you get even like little things like that with kids around your farm or your homestead. Is just wonderful to kind of tie them in. Cause then when it comes,
I got one of those like turning composters. I've never had one of those. And our compost piles always get messed up by the dogs, not our manure piles, but like compost piles. And so I actually put that right on our back porch, and it's right next to our garbage can. So that's become like the little kids' job is to be putting things in there. We're brooding chickens in the house right now. So the bedding is all going in there. Like, and it's super exciting for them to get to see it and be the ones to work it.
Well, and that's good too, like, because kids just need to know there's life after the trash pile. Like, not everything goes into the trash can. I love when my daughter's friends come over. Sometimes I'm like, no, we don't put that in the trash can. Like, here's my compost bin. And, we're going to take this paper and we're going to burn that for the ash. And we're going to put the ash in my garden. Like, don't throw it away. We've got uses for that. But even like in our community, it's very agricultural out here. But I think a lot of people have that false security of like, oh, they're in an agricultural community, so they know how to use all of this. But really, you could grow up in an agricultural community and have no idea about how to steward your land properly. And that's not to dog on agriculture as a whole.
I was one of them. I mean, I grew up on a cattle ranch. I mean, we hunted and we were all about providing all of our own meats and stuff. But my dad grew up dirt floor poor in Tennessee. Yeah. Hitchhiked out to California. By the time I was born, he owned 3 shipyards. So he was like, if I can afford to pay someone to do it or buy something, I'm doing it. And I understand why he did that, but it
Yes.
definitely didn't give me that respect for the land type attitude.
Yeah.
It did give me respect for duct tape and baling wire because he still had that mindset.
Yeah, where it's like, we don't need to put in a whole new fence. We just need enough baling twine to repair that fence.
Right. I've actually helped
So
him fix the
guilty.
clutch on our old Jeep Scrambler with duct tape and baling wire. So
You know what? You can achieve a lot of things project wise with just those two pieces of material. So we won't dog on that, but it that kind of speaks.
Homestead ingenuity.
Yeah, exactly. But like that experience with your father kind of makes me think about a conversation I actually just had with my mom. My mom grew up much like your father, very impoverished in Tennessee in the Appalachians. And, her mom would always grow a big garden and they would can, and she would grow up doing that. And she said, when you were born, I used to can a lot. And then my time got really depleted and I started to look at, how much I was paying for the seed and how much time I was putting into starting the seed and putting it in the ground and then making sure it came to fruition, picking it and harvesting it. And she's like, and then I was in Walmart and I was like, man, 50 cents for a can of green beans. She's like, how much time did I put into a can of green beans? And she's like, I guess that's where they get you. And I'm like, it is, because I grew up most of my entire life not learning about food preservation. And I actually just started my pressure canning journey this last summer. And she's like, I never really thought about that, because times are kind of scary. Our food supply chain is so very fragile, and nobody ever had any inkling that it could all come crashing down until, the last couple of years with all of the things that have been happening within our country. She's like, man, I really failed you in that way. I'm like, no, like, I totally understand why, when you come from a situation where you realize you did not have the funds to make something happen, and then when you do, you always want to improve the life for your children. But I think like that can kind of get molded and twisted to where that knowledge is just gone, and it's,
I'm a part of another conference out here, and they just released sweatshirts that say, grandma had it, mom got rid of it, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh,
it's
like
so true. It's so true. Like, I understand wanting to improve your children's lives, but not at the expense of skill sets being lost completely and making them more malleable for other parties. And I won't go too far into that. I won't put my tinfoil hat on, but it's very important to protect those skill sets,
just as long as we know you have one, where
I can see it. It's over there. Don't worry. I'll slide it on whenever you want me to. But I usually try to tell people I'm gonna keep my tinfoil hat over here to the side.
That was my whole
that way. I'll put it right on.
That was my whole goal with what I do, is just to be able to reach that generation of kids that are so far removed from the family farm. They don't have the skill set and the character to be able to be self-sufficient or even understand how to do that if they ever needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's even more difficult now because you have so many different things that can come into your children's lives without you even knowing. I mean, my dog just
let himself in the office.
Oh, did he? I'm sure you can hear my baby chicks just cheeping away in the background where I'm like, really, you've been quiet all day. There's food, water, and heat. You're good. But it's so hard though, like with screens and things like that there are so many different things that can come into her life without me even knowing. So it just makes me even more so like, especially when it's springtime, like, come out with me. I know you would rather sit inside and listen to a song on YouTube, or God forbid, whatever comes across your feed through YouTube or whatever, but let's go outside. Let's go, let's walk your weather. We are very involved in 4-H, and she understands that I'm not going to break your animals for you. I'm not going to, gentle them down. So if you walk into that ring with a haywire weather, everybody's going to know it's because
that's your problem.
Touch him. It's not mommy didn't go in there. Like, I have my own string of dairy goods that I show. Like, I don't need a beat weather on top of that.
I tried to teach my kids that, and my now 18-year-old son, he's just one of those ones that life always comes easy for him. I don't know how he manages it. I don't think he even ever fed his pig, because he had a job this last year. And so, I mean, the pig was getting fed. He just wasn't. His brother was doing it. And come showtime, I'm like, good luck with your pig. You haven't
Yeah.
messed with it at all. That pig went out there and walked like, I mean, I think he made it to he made it to the championship round.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Kidding. Like, you got really lucky. That's all I can say.
Right.
She had her fair share of jumpers. We do mostly volunteers. So there have been a couple of rodeos where I'm like, just don't let go of the collar. Like, try to remain in control as long as possible. Don't let go of the collar. And she hasn't yet, but it just goes to show, like, you know, you're responsible for the results of these projects that you have. Like, I can't handhold, and there are some things I don't mind hand holding on, but there's something really beautiful about it dawning on their mind where it's like, I am responsible for the outcomes of my projects, and if I don't put my best foot forward, who will do it for me? So for 4-H, like, that's just been a really big proponent. I did not grow up with 4-H. I was one of those kids that was on like every traveling sports team that you could think of, and would just, volleyball and softball were my thing. That's just what I did. I was a sports kid. And I remember my mom.
I was 4-H and rodeo. So
yeah, see, there you go. It all takes, you know, it's just kind of funny, like how lots of
I don't follow rodeo at all anymore though. So
oh yeah. Yeah. I
don't even want a horse. I kind of want a mule.
I do watch her, you know, I do watch her barrel race, but other than that, like, I'm not.
I don't even want horses. I kind of want a mule to get into some backcountry, but
yeah, that would be really cool.
Because, you know, up in North Idaho, we have some beautiful backcountry. So,
oh, I believe it. I believe it. I've always wanted to go out west. I'm hoping one day, bucket list, we'll get out there, but we've really made it a point to kind of make like our homestead where we just don't want to leave it, you know? And
I'm traveling all over right now, and I can't tell you. Is it killing
you? I don't know how you're doing
killing me. I'm having to, like, you know, we got a bunch of new pigs and I didn't get to be there for that. I wasn't here for chick day. You know, we're always excited the first order of chicks that come in the spring, and I missed chick day. And, you know, my husband's out there like, okay, I'm trying to do what you wanted to do in the garden. Can I FaceTime you? Like, it's just,
I don't know how you're doing.
Seasons of life.
It is a season of life, but, you know, it's kind of funny too, because like there are so many people that want that, you know, when they find out, like, if you're doing YouTube or you're traveling or you're speaking, like, I just really want to do that. I just really want to work on a conference. It's like, do you really though? Because you don't understand all of the components. And honestly, when you bring something new into your life, you have to sacrifice something. And then when there's enough things in your life that you just really love, like, those sacrifices are so hard. They're not minimal. You know what I mean?
No.
Where you're just,
I am exhausted.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. You don't look exhausted. I get you on this Zoom call and I'm like, you don't have bags under your eyes. You're handling it very well, Kody. Like, you know, that's all I can tell you.
The hair, like the hair clip is the winner because
holds it all together and makes it look put together. I like that. Yeah.
No, I had a meeting in town this morning, and so I had to try to look like a human.
Don't you love that though? Have you ever had someone like stop in at your farm or your homestead and they're like, oh, I'm just dropping by real quick. And you're like, just get ready, because like, I don't smell like a human being. I barely look like a human being. And there's stains on my clothes that I can't tell you what they're from.
Right. You know? Like, don't mind me while I'm gardening in, I don't know, like cut off sweatpants, and like the 5X Walmart tank top that I bought the wrong size and was like, whatever, it'll be a great garden shirt. And, you know, walking around, I only garden barefoot. Like, that is my rule.
I am here for that, Kody. I am here for that, especially like, because I know you have a presence on social media and things. And it's kind of funny though, because I think people think that when they follow you like on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, that they're like, oh, I didn't expect it to look like this right now. I'm like, do you think I would post pictures of like the worst tomato plant in my garden? Or like when I literally am covered in things that I don't even want to begin to describe and I'm just like working through it? Of course not. I'm like, you can't look at what's on social media and think that's exactly what it is. Like, I'm going to show you the best of what I have. And then every now and then I might temper some of those posts with this is the ugly side of homesteading, you know? I'm like, you just walked into like the ugly post. This is it every day.
Full disclosure, like, you know, I'm going to tell all my secrets. I'm doing these lives every day right now on my new homestead business membership. And there's this like makeshift table in my driveway. with all of my husband's small engine repair stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to do this, live on, you can do a homestead business of small engine repair, and I'm like, showing everything, this like absolute disaster mess. But really, it has been there for over a year.
Mhm.
I totally, this year I was like, okay, we're putting in a new fence for the garden. I want this gone after we're done. Because I can't, I mean, it's literally in our we have this
Mhm.
beautiful house, and you pull up and there's this makeshift table that looks like our garage exploded.
Yeah. That's the way it always goes, though. Actually, my husband's brother's getting ready to have a baby, and his mom was looking for a place. And he's like, "Can we have it here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because you know what? That would actually make me clean my house, and I would keep up with my landscape just for that, just for the 4 hours when I know someone is going to be here, and I can't just like pan the camera a different way or like take a moment to like straighten up the area where I'm shooting a video because." I can't control where they'll be or the sites that they're going to be seeing. So I'll just have to do all of it,
I've only accepted my husband's vendetta against dandelions because it actually gets him to work on our yard.
You got to play to their strengths, though.
Right.
If someone
Everyone's
really
like, don't let him kill the dandelions. They're so helpful. And I'm like, if it gets him out there working in the yard, like death to the dandelions.
Yeah.
It's only like a quarter acre of our entire 30
Yeah.
acres, but death to the dandelions in the
Yeah.
barbecue,
I hear you. You got to play to their strengths. It's the same way with anybody that's like helping you on your homestead. If they're like, I love your chickens, like, really, you want to come over here and collect the eggs for me? I mean, but I think that's the way to get people to kind of get into self-sufficiency too, is like finding like that one thing that they love. And I'm like, okay, let's really focus on that. And we'll teach you about that and we'll get you involved. Because we all know like chickens are the gateway drug of livestock.
Wow.
So whenever anybody's like, I really am thinking about homesteading and I want livestock, I'm like, start with chickens. If you love your chicken, it'll grow into something different.
Although, you're probably going to be offended by this one. I always tell people like, oh, you're going through your goat phase. That's really sweet.
No, it's true. No, it's true though. I mean, the people that keep and breed goats, like we're a very, very different breed. And when people are like, I want to get
respect,
yeah. Well, I have people that will often reach out every day that I want to get into goats. I'm looking for a mentor. And I'm like, I will mentor you, but like the odds are like in a year, you're not going to want those goats. Like full disclosure, like they are not for the faint of heart. They think of
they are liquid
homicide and suicide every single day. They wake up thinking about it and they go to sleep thinking about it. And they're
liquid. They do not stay in anything that isn't airtight.
Oh my gosh. And if they know, it doesn't matter how much of a routine or how like positively reinforced you are with grains and treats. If they know you want them to do something, it is just in their nature to be like, nope, not today.
Yeah, I actually had a goat that was like, I'm pretty sure she was already in labor. I'm trying to get her into a nursery pen. And she was a boar goat, but she was a really short boar goat. She's like ran dead run from me and cleared a 6-foot fence in labor. I was like, you know what? Have your babies out for the coyotes to eat them. I don't care.
Yeah. You can only do so much.
We called her.
You can only do so much.
Her name was actually Infinity because she had an infinity ways to get out of the fence.
I can believe that. And don't worry, I've had moments too where I'm like, fine, whatever predator comes by, they can have you.
Free game.
That I have no idea how she's getting out of the fence. I try to watch her every morning. I let them out. And it's like, she knows, I know you go to work and that you work remotely and you are going to sign on at 7:30 and come back and look at me at 7:45. But in that 15 minutes, I'm going to be out, go all the way around the five fenced in acres, and I'm going to be in the front door. Like,
we have a pig like that right now. We call him Flash. And we came home the other day and he's out in the pasture and he had a feed bowl with him, like one of those like rubber kind of only like 2-3 inch deep ones. And we pull in, he's rooting up the ground and there's a group of turkeys with him, like eating whatever he's rooting up. And I was like, why does he have a bowl with him? And he saw us and grabbed the bowl and took off running. And I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now.
That's when everybody sees it like, look, that's permaculture. We mean that to happen. They're going through and they're rooting up the area for our garden and the turkeys are going behind them and taking care of the pests and we'll be able to plant corn there.
But whatever he was digging up, apparently he was putting in his bowl.
Oh, God. I
don't
like,
know.
use your mind, bye. Thanks,
I just
Mom.
thought it was really weird that like he had the bowl out there and I was making a joke like, oh look, he's got his bowl. What's he doing? And he saw us and he like started to run, came back and grabbed the bowl and bolted. We were laughing so hard.
Pigs are something that we've always wanted to do, but I don't know if I could have pigs and goats. I feel like I would lose my mind because pigs are so incredibly smart. I'm like, I don't know if I can have something that's like the
You'd
most
be outwitted,
of
yeah.
livestock and then the smartest. I'm like, because I would just be like, well, we're just gonna have to give up. We're just gonna put up the white flag and say whatever happens, happens. We're gonna be that home where everything free ranges and nothing is contained.
We ran, this winter when everything froze solid, our hot wire fence somehow got froze in with it because we keep it real low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so none of our fences worked for about 2 months.
Oh,
so
no.
we were literally running a free range operation. I was just like, whatever. Hey,
if they're not bothering anybody and you're far enough off the road, then it is what
right?
it is.
And I mean, we have 4 pigs in with a calf right now because we couldn't get them back in the pen. So we were just like, live with the calf.
Yeah.
They're really happy. So, And I say calf, she's a 2-year-old heifer, but she's really spoiled. So
well, they always act like that though. They are always your little babies when was she bottle raised or anything?
No, but she's my son. She is my son's show heifer.
So then she might as well have been. She's been handled a lot her entire life. Yeah, we have one like that. And it's not my fault. For once, it's not my fault when goats start coming into the house. We did have like one that she was born, 2.5 weeks early. And like literally when I found her, like she was dead. Like she was doing the agonal breathing. Yeah. I'm like, okay, we're going to try because there's an agonal breath, which means the brain is still firing, and brought her back to life. Like she's still here. She's still here with us. But my husband has loved her ever since. And all she does is she watches the fence. And when she sees him, she mazz. And like he's being a moth to the flame, goes right to the gate. She comes out, comes in, is like, what cereal do you have for me today to try? And gets really mad when we don't have like her cereals of choice. Like if the Cheerios are gone and she sees like it's just like Rice Crisps or Rice Bran, you can just almost see it in her face, the pure disappointment. I didn't think that goats could exhibit disappointment because they're always on top. Like they could if they want it, but you can just tell the disappointment comes across her face and she's like, what else do you have? And I don't know what it is, but we're just like, why don't you try this cookie? This looks like it's a good cookie. You might like this cookie. And she's going to be like that forever. She's only 1.5 years old now. So I'm like, we're creating a monster. She's a monster.
Yeah. She's going to get bigger too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much, being my son's show heifer, she only gets messed with at showtime, because you know how kids are.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's 14 and a big boy, and he'll get out there and get her halter on her, and then she won't walk for me. And I have to go out there and do like the look me in the eyes, girl. And then all of a sudden she's just like sweet as pie.
Yeah. Mama means business. It's funny how they know that though, Even that little goat, it's just that with like, even with a dog or a kid that's getting ready, you're like, like she's just ears pop forward and she's gone. I'm like, yeah,
I make that same noise at
you're
my
not supposed to
3-year-old.
do it. Yeah.
Like my kids get in trouble and I'm like,
It's just a noise that comes very naturally and it demands attention. So I'm not against using if it works, it works.
That's the noise my dad would use when he was training his hunting dogs.
Really?
Yeah. He had a bunch of different noises he made, and I like if somebody were to ask me to do them, I couldn't. But when I'm working with my dogs, I catch myself just doing it.
Yeah.
But he never used actual words with them.
Mm-hmm. They know.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they're being trained and worked all the time. I'm sure that they probably just do the cues. Like, that means I'm doing something very wrong and I need to stop right now.
He was a hunting guide, and he had a guy from like a hunting magazine come out and hunt with him, and he actually wrote a whole article about how my dad only trained his dogs with those noises.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
That's wild. That's really wild. I feel like I would have wanted to have met your dad. Your dad sounds like he was a very interesting person.
He was very much. I miss him, but yeah, he actually got lost hunting one time in a snowstorm, and I mean, they had like rescue crews out looking for him and stuff, and he had like a teenager with him and they didn't know if they were going to get the teenager out. He buried the teenager with a bunch of hunting dogs
Oh,
and then
wow.
tried to like get out on his horse, like just him and the horse, so that he could just leave, like kind of what was slowing him down there. And he couldn't get his bearings because of the snowstorm. He ended up shooting the horse and gutting it and sleeping inside of it.
Wow.
And he got up the next morning and he couldn't fire off his gun because it was frozen. So he peed on his gun.
Yeah.
And that's how the rescue people found him. And that kid that he buried only ended up losing a couple of toes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it saved the kid's life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, buried him in the snow because when you're still going to be 32 degrees, you know.
Mhm.
And plus he
Yeah.
had the dogs with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found him, he was actually on the San Francisco news because it was in California. And they're like, Mr. Sanders, you know, what made you think to do this? And he goes, well, I saw it on a John Wayne movie. That's my dad. Like,
Yeah. Well, you know, like as you were telling that story, it's funny because I'm like, well, there was a scene in The Revenant where he was in a horse, like, and then in Star Wars they cut up in that one animal and got it to stay warm. I'm like, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, you're like waiting for this really great, like, I learned bushcraft with the best, you know, and he's like, well, saw it on a John Wayne movie.
Yeah. Thank goodness something on a movie actually came to be useful or helpful in a situation like that, you know?
Right. But yeah, he was always on the news for something dumb.
Well, you can't sell wit like that short though. Like even somebody who's out and like sees things like that in the movie, some people would think that was just like totally not usable. So like you even can't discount wit that comes from being in a high stress situation like that and being like, well, it's either that or dying, and I saw that in a movie, so I'm going to try it because it's either that or expiring, you know.
Exactly.
So that's something to be very admired. And there's a lot of people in those situations that would just succumbed, just sat there and be like, well, this is how it ends, you know. Gotta love someone who's tough to the bitter end, you know.
Yep, he definitely was. I mean, even just shortly before he died, he called me and I was like, you know, how you doing today, Dad? He's like, oh, I pulled a groin muscle. I mean, at this point he had like 2 knee replacements. I mean, they were already talking hospice with him and stuff. And I was like, how did you pull a groin muscle? And he's like, well, I fell off a gate. And I'm like, why were you on a gate? And he's like, well, how else was I going to get over it?
You know, we can only hope to be like that, you know. Right. I've often, you know, it's kind of like dark and morbid, but like when we talk about that, like my husband and I'm like, you know, if I ever go, I just want to fall over dead in the garden. Like I just want to be doing something that I love, and just as like, that's my time. That's the time that my ticket got punched. You know, I don't want to just fade away or anything like that. But I feel like a lot of people that live like the way that we do, I feel like that's how I don't know if I could ever be laid up like that, you know. Like my mom actually is going through some knee replacement stuff where she's getting ready to do it, and she's like, I'm just so depressed. She's like, I'm used to being in the garden and going out and mushroom hunting and just being outside at this time of year, and she's like, my knees literally will not allow me to do it. So I just,
you know what though, like my dad, he actually had to have his knees replaced twice because the first time it was just needed to be done, and he was back at it within just a couple of weeks. I mean, he probably shouldn't have been, but he was.
Yeah.
The second time it's because he shot through his own knee replacement, and so then he ended up having to have them both redone because when he was favoring the one he shot through, like
yeah.
he was hunting a wild pig. He was guiding a hunt with a 12 girl, and the girl shot the pig and wounded it, and it was like a 300-pound boar, and it just came around and got him right in the side, and it actually shattered his knee replacement, and then he was trying to shoot the boar and shot right through his knee replacement. It just,
you know, I was going to ask, but I didn't want to sound like ridiculous. I'm like, when you say shot through, do you mean like with like a gun, or do you mean like just shot through it? Like, I worked through that one, I need another one.
Nope. He actually, like, when the pig shattered his thigh, he was down on the ground and his leg was bent up, but he didn't like, he was just so trying to like deal with the pig, and he pulled his pistol out and shot, not realizing that his leg was in between him and the pig. So
oh my gosh, your dad sounds like a wild man. Like
it wasn't even the first time he got shot, so
that's crazy. You know, my husband was reading a book where it's called Hell I Was There by Elmer Keith, but it sounds like your dad was Elmer Keith.
Right.
But like what we've read in that book, I'm like, man, your dad just really lived that life. That's really amazing though. and that's something
Mhm.
we wanted to go do. We hunt and forage as well, and that there's no wild hogs here, thankfully, because they're super destructive.
They
But
are,
one
yeah.
of the things, like we keep saying, like for one of our anniversaries, I'm like, we're gonna go south and we're gonna go on a hog hunt. But
I want to do one of those ones where you're like shooting them out of a helicopter. I think that would
yeah,
be
those are
insane.
so cool. Those are so neat. We watch videos on that. And I think one of my favorite hunting YouTubers is actually Carpe Seuss. And that's all he does is just goes out
Huh.
at night after like hog hunts. And I just love watching that because they're really interesting animals, very aware. I can see why they're a little bit hard
Mhm.
to keep under control.
We
They're not.
actually, as part of the hunting guide business, we would work for like the big wineries in California. And I mean,
Mhm.
we'd go in sometimes at night and kill like 30 hogs on depredation permit
That's so
because
crazy.
a herd of hogs like that can take out an entire vineyard in a night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people, especially those that, I know not a lot of people are always receptive towards hunting, but honestly, with as much land that we take up and that we use, like we really are the apex predator, and
Mhm.
we have a responsibility to take care of things like that. Like
We
they
do. I
really.
teach a lot on depredation and like
Oh
when
yeah.
you should use lethal versus other options. And, even with the 30 a night that we kill, they're an invasive species in California,
Mhm.
but we
Yeah.
would also donate all the meat. So,
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's a win-win. I mean,
mhm.
it's not even on that scale, but like even as like a homesteader with livestock, you have to protect your livestock. We actually had a fox that was coming into our coop, and he had me timed. Like it was a little bit ridiculous how.
Pigs will eat livestock too.
Yeah, I've
They're
heard that.
omnivores, so
I've heard that.
they're real big issue with lambs in California.
Oh yeah. Oh, I absolutely believe it. I mean, I know that in our goat forums, a lot of people try to run coonies, and even though I know
Mhm.
coonies probably are one of the least likely to do it, like they still have the propensity to, like me,
I
to
watch my
like they'll eat it.
sows. They'll have like a whole flock of chickens like sleeping with them, and all
Mhm.
of a sudden one of them will just stand up and eat a chicken in like 3 bites.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
mean,
were you hungry?
yeah. I don't feel like walking to the trough right now. This chicken looks scrumptious.
Right? I
I
mean, we have like 700-pound sows, so
Yeah. It's just kind of crazy. But we had like this fox that was getting in, and I did a video on it, and people, they really don't like when you protect your animals. And it wasn't one of these situations where it's like, oh, like I'm just not taking the proper precautions. I made a mistake one night on one side of my coop, and the fox just kept coming back, and he had me timed. You could tell like he had to be in the thicket watching me every day, figuring out when I come to close up the coop and when I come to open the coop, because in those moments, like he was still coming. And we actually caught him and took care of him, and the people were like, I just cannot believe that you hurt this poor fox, because he's only doing what he's doing. But I also didn't show him, like when I pulled that fox out from underneath my coop, he had mange, he was underfed. So even though he was killing my livestock and eating, like there was something wrong with him. And because
mhm.
of the lack of predation in this area, like we have coyotes and stuff, but there's nothing to keep that population in check. And when populations overflow, like it's not usually a good thing. It means there's starvation, there's disease, I mean, all the
Mhm.
things that happen in an overpopulated scenario. So it's like I just quickened what was going to happen to him anyways, because he was
Mhm.
skin and bones,
And
he
he
had
might have
no
had
hair.
disease or
Yeah, he
fleas
had
or ticks or
mange,
something
like,
that he
and he
could
was in the
be.
middle of like an Arctic vortex. It was negative 37 degrees that night. I'm
Yeah.
like, he wouldn't have made it anyways. There's really no way that he would have lived a good life, even if he got through the mange. Like we just quickened what was already going to happen. He just took some of my chickens while he was at it.
I respect your choice. So
Mhm.
it's one that you have to do sometimes, and we've done it ourselves. So
It's not fun. I don't ever want anybody to think that like homesteaders glorify that either, because it literally, stewardship of the land is kind of weird like that, with the balance, because you're taking land and you're trying to make the land better. And if you run permaculture, or you run your chickens in behind, like your goats or your cattle or your pigs or whatever, I mean,
mhm.
there's still things like that pop up where it's like, it's just not beautiful and it's not pretty. But I mean, it's balance, it
Well,
really is. And
you
life
know,
balanced with death.
we actually, the snow and our winter was so rough here. We lost a hog, which that it wasn't anything to do with the winter. We just happened to lose a hog over the winter. He was old.
Mhm.
And the kids were home alone. My husband and I were out of state because he had to have surgery. And I say kids, we have an 18-year-old that was here.
Mhm.
He couldn't do anything with it. He called one of his buddies and they tied it to the back of the truck and drug it as far away from the barn as they could. We just lost all of our snow a week ago. And we have somebody coming with a tractor so we can deal with it. And this poor carcass has been laying on the lower part of our property that was in January, and it's the end of April when we're recording this. And sometimes that's just life.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, and good for you for dragging it away. I know so many people are probably just pushed on the other side here. Like our winters don't get nearly as bad as your guys's do. But when they get like that and you lose, like the ground is frozen, or it's like, what do you do with an animal? I mean, I'm calling in more predators because I'm leaving that carcass there, but that's nature too, that. Yeah, it's very cyclical. Compost piles are great, but I've never had a lot of luck like putting in large livestock and like big manure or compost piles. It just doesn't work right, We
have a lower part of our property that's actually where we put him, but he couldn't get to that area in the snow. Even his buddy that he called over had a snow crawler. And that's what they moved it with. We actually, when we went down there to look at it and see what we needed to do, they had actually tied an extension cord around it to drag it. I was like, oh my gosh, like
homestead ingenuity.
Right. I was going with redneck boys, but yeah,
you could go with that too. That's okay. Both are true.
Yeah. We went to the Homesteaders of America last year. We came home and the boys had been out hunting and actually rolled their truck and all of their guns went in the river.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody was okay. We got a call from the sheriff in the middle of the night. That was special. Yeah. But, well, I guess it was like 6. It was late for us, but we were 3 hours,
Yeah.
And I come home and, the only thing I was mad about is that they cleaned all these dang guns on my new carpets.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I'm glad that you were just out hunting. Yeah. I'm glad that you were smart enough to know that you needed to clean all your guns and be responsible like that. But on my carpet, just put a tarp down or a sheet or something.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm glad none of mine are old enough to do that just yet. I just have one 13-year-old daughter, and we're at that point where she loves me. We're kind of best friends, but she kind of hates me too. So we're like,
I have a 14-year-old daughter right now. So it's actually when we come out to your event, it's going to be her and her brother's 15th birthday. So,
oh, really? I'm so excited. They're actually really excited to come out. I can't wait to hear you speak. Like, I'm just super excited about it. And I appreciate, because I know it's like right on the heels of Homesteaders of America, but I will be sure to stop by and say hello there.
Well, we decided to drive. So we were debating driving or flying this year. And we're like, well, if we're going to do Indiana right afterwards, we will drive out there and then drive to Indiana. And so we can just make it a trip. But seems how we're on the subject, we've only got a few more minutes of our talk. Let's talk about the event that you're putting on after we've had this like great talk of what real homestead life looks like.
As beautiful and discombobulated as it is. But yeah, the event we're putting on is called the Indiana Homesteading Conference. This is actually our second annual event, and we're so excited. We have speakers like Joel Salatin, Pork Ryan will be there. We have Sean and Beth Doherty. We of course have you. We can't wait to hear you speak. We have
I'm excited. And I got to meet Sean and Beth in March.
Wonderful.
Yes. I mean, like, I'm sitting there like it was more of an inspirational talk and I was taking notes. Like,
yeah, but who wouldn't know when you've got someone like that sitting in front of you where you're like, I'm just gonna soak it all in, give me all the wisdom, give me all the inspiration and motivation that I can't get anywhere else. And really, like, it's interactions like that though that drive these conferences, because a lot of people, you can only get so much, from like YouTube or podcasts. There's something about seeing like that person in front of you and just pulling all the inspiration that you can, because really
the fellowship that comes with it and that closeness. And honestly, I talked at a homeschool conference recently, and then this gal came to my booth afterwards and she's like, I was so excited to come talk to you because I was so happy when you walked in the room and you were a normal person. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like the sweater you were wearing, I have the same one. I know where you bought it. She's like, I just felt so connected to you. Aww. Right off the bat. She's like, it was a homeschool conference and I saw Homesteader. I didn't even know what to expect when you walked in the room. And to see that you were just a normal person, a normal mom, just like me, I knew I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah. Well, that's so good. But like, it isn't that like a nice experience for you to have to know, which also for me, I'd have been like, what do you mean? What did you think I was going to walk in looking like with Homestead because it's interesting to see like what people have, like these preconceived notions, but it's so fun to watch people break through those barriers. Like having that person in front of you that's giving you knowledge, but also inspiring you and motivating you, like that is an experience like you just cannot have almost anywhere else except for conferences like that. There's just energy and people around you are excited and they're feeling the energy too. And they all want to go home and start these new projects. It's just
the networking and the new friendships.
Oh
I mean, it's just amazing.
Honestly, like it is euphoric. Like really it is. And I didn't even know things like that existed until about 3 years ago when we went to the Homesteaders of America. And,
that was our first one, was 3 years ago.
Really? That was ours too. And ever since then, it's
I'm bummed we didn't get to connect sooner.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, but it's weird how you like meet people that have been to things like that. You're like, I was there too. I can't believe like we were like probably feet away at some point and we just didn't even know each other existed. But Rhonda actually.
Sorry, I have a friend that I met at HOA 3 years ago. They were standing behind us in line. It was that year that there was the horrible long line and all the fog.
Yes.
Yeah. So we finally get in and we go over to buy a cinnamon roll from Marcy Joe's booth. And she was ahead of me in line and they couldn't get their card machine to work. And she was like, I just wanted coffee and a cinnamon roll. And so I turned to my husband and I'm like, give me cash, and I said, can we buy your cinnamon roll? And she was like, oh no, I can't, and we just got to chatting and we're still friends. We talk like at least every other week.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. But it's interactions like that. Like that's what we're trying to achieve with this. So with our conference, it's going to be October 21st and 22nd. It's a Saturday, Sunday. It's a 2-day event. It's going to be amazing. And well, at least I hope it's going to be amazing. We're working so hard to make this a conference that just really like motivates people and that they get that networking and they get those friends like you made in line that you didn't think you were going to make. And really, we want it to be one of those things where they look forward to it every year. Like we look forward to HOA every year. It really is a family reunion. And I think you cannot find a community that more closely resembles what a family is than like homesteading, because like we really do get it. Like you can't help but like lock arms with like someone next to you and be like, we both have like the same mindset. And I don't have to explain to you why I want to grow my own food or why I choose to wrangle goats every day because they keep getting outside of the fence. Like you get the insanity and you get the beauty and the controlled chaos and everything that it brings that is so rewarding. And that's what we want to do through this conference. And really, like Rhonda came to me because she followed me on Facebook and YouTube. And she was like, I just really feel like the Lord wants me to ask you if you want to do this with me. And I actually just turned down my first speaking invitation. And I was so bummed because I'm like, I just don't have the money to get there. And it wasn't one of those things where I could like, I didn't feel like asking to be paid to come down. I just wanted to come speak and I had to turn it down. And it was just one of those things where like, God knows the desires of your heart. And it was not, but 3 days later, she's like, do you want to work on this with me? She's like, we don't know each other, but like, we could do this. And I'm like, sure, why not? And here we are planning our second event and it's already surpassed. Like, I don't want to get emotional because like, I just feel so much passion towards like this community and encouraging people to be a part of it because homesteading is so fluid. It does not in any box,
I have been in tears more at conferences and events and the happy tears, I feel connected tears that I feel something bigger than me.
Yeah, 100. It's almost like a self-discovery and finding like that.
My husband found God again 3 years ago at HOAs.
Oh, I mean, well, I'm really
not that we had never totally lost him, but like it reignited his faith.
Yeah. And it's amazing. But like, honestly, don't you feel that with like homestay? Like if you could just put your fingers in dirt or watch a seed sprout or watch an animal birth or just be a part of like that internal, natural, pure struggle that's so carnal. I'm like, you almost can't deny it. You almost can't where you're like, this didn't just come by chance. Like, this is just so beautiful and intricate,
Mhm.
and everything lends itself to one another. And there's this beautiful harmony that so much of the world is so disconnected from, where I'm like, if you could just see it, if you could just be a part of it, it would solve so many problems. We wouldn't have
You're
hunger,
gonna
and
make
we wouldn't have people depressed. Like, you would just have that connection. And I want people to have that connection. I didn't think I was going to cry, Kody. I'm really sorry, but like,
It's okay. Like, I'm starting to tear up myself because
like,
I feel so moved by what you have to say.
it's people lack that connection and they don't know what's missing. And I'm like, just come to my farm. I'll show you. Like, just come to a conference. Like, just let us show you what you're missing, because this is the connection you're looking for. And it's just,
I grew up with the same two girlfriends from the time we were 2 years old. And I mean, they were like sisters to me.
mhm.
And we are so disconnected in the lives that we lead at this point. To find what I have found in the homesteading community has rebuilt that connection in me that I needed with other women and other people. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's something in that struggle that is so empowering. And for someone to be like, you can get through it, because I don't think I've ever talked to a homesteader and been like, this is what I'm facing, like with my livestock or my garden. And none of them were like, well, why you're stupid, just quit.
yeah,
None of them have ever taken that approach with me. It's always been like, you've got this, you're stronger than this. This challenge is, this is a hurdle to get you to that next step. And then your parameters for discomfort get so far out where it gets to the point where it's either like, you're just going to become like, you're going to be Superwoman, because your
it's
parameters,
empowering.
your parameters for fear or discomfort, you learn how to bust through them. They're just an obstacle, and you don't look at an obstacle like it's something that stops you. You look at it like it's something that's going to grow you, and you almost look forward to it, because when we're in those struggles, I'm like, okay, God, I get it. Like, there's a big breakthrough, because I wouldn't struggle this hard if there wasn't a bigger reward on the other side. And it's like that in homesteading all the time. You just know, like, you get bigger and better and more experience, and it's not just for you, it's for the people that are walking behind you that are struggling, where you can reach behind and say, hey, hey brother, hey sister, been there, done that. You are stronger than this. You will get through it, and you will find so much reward in this lifestyle if you just keep going. And there's something so beautiful in the community in that way.
I love what you have to say. And we're getting to the end of our time, but I do want to say, if you're ready to go to one of these events and experience it, stay tuned after the episode, because I'm going to tell you how you can win a couple of tickets from me to this event. Now, my favorite question for everybody on the podcast is, what does keep growing mean to you?
What does keep growing mean to me? It means busting through those obstacles. Those parameters of discomfort just keep getting pushed further and further away. That's what growing is to me. Just losing that faith over fear. That's growth to me.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. And I can't wait to be able to connect again. Everybody go follow Ashley. Where can they find you?
So you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook as Mulberry Branch Farm. Just say hello and let me know that you came through this podcast, because we just love Kody so much. And I'm just so happy that you had me on today, Kody. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. And again, everybody stay tuned at the end of the episode for a little bit more information. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in on how to win tickets to the Indiana Homesteading Conference for 2023. The Indiana Homesteading Conference will be held October 21st and 22nd, 2023 at the Marion County Fairgrounds outside of Indianapolis, and is dedicated to partnering to teach sustainable living skills and encourage community. Kody Hanner with the Homestead Education has partnered with the Indiana Homestead Conference to give away 2 weekend passes. Passes include access to all the conference breakout sessions both days. This is 25 sessions per day with 5 time slots and 5 options from each to choose from each slot. You do not want to miss this amazing lineup of speakers. Just so you know, the hog roast, junior homesteaders, and the intensive workshops are not included, but can be purchased at an additional charge. But I bet you just want to hear how to win these tickets. And we are so excited to be giving them out. First thing you need to do is follow the Homestead Education on Facebook. The second one is follow the Indiana Homesteading Conference on Facebook. Then use the link in the show notes to sign up for the Homestead Education newsletter through that link. And on May 31st at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will be drawing the winners live. Once we draw a winner, we're going to check to make sure that you're following both the Homestead Education and the Indiana Homestead Conference in order to qualify. If you don't, we will be pulling a new winner. So make sure you pop over to thehomesteadeducation.com/Indiana Homesteading to sign up to win those tickets. Thank you for joining me today at the Homestead Education, and I hope that I have given you something to think about this week. To help others find me, please comment and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. You can also follow me on Facebook at the Homestead Education and Instagram at Homestead_education. Do you have questions that you would like answered or just want to say hi? Please email me at hello@thehomesteadeducation.com. Until next time, keep growing!